I'm Simon Padian, I'm the Saab brand design chief, and we're here in Frankfurt obviously for the launch of the all-new Saab 95. Very important, very big day for us. I think it signals a bit of a turning point for the company. As I'm sure you're aware, with all of the change in ownership that's ongoing, the all-new Saab 95 really signals a bit of a rebirth for the brand as we move forward.
Wonderful. Could you tell us a little about, I understand this year is your 20-year anniversary.
Yes.
Working with Saab as a designer, or maybe you can kind of give us an idea how that history kind of
Sure.
developed.
Absolutely. Yep, you're quite right. It's 20 years since I've been working with Saab. I joined Saab in 1989 as a young designer. I'd had one job previously in Holland, actually, working for a small design consultancy called Kick Design. And they focus mainly on the automotive industry within Europe. I then joined Saab, as I say. Been really through very many different changes. We've seen a lot of things happening with the company, of course. When I joined Saab, it was still an independent organisation, an independent brand of the company. We then sort of transitioned into the situation where GM became involved. Initially having a 50% share in the company, then of course finally buying the whole full 100% of the company. And of course that also had a lot of sort of consequences, if you like, in terms of the organisation. Gradually we became more and more integrated into the GM organisation. Certainly from a design perspective, it meant that we were part of a bigger design organisation, part of GME design, and in turn in the whole GM design organisation. So an awful lot of changes, a lot of different, I've worked for a lot of different people, of course, during the time. In the early days it was Björn Envall, who very strong character. I'm sure you're aware of what Björn is like. Yeah, all the way through, different people. We worked for Michael Mauer, of course, who did a lot, started the concept car period, I think you could say, for Saab. And of course through the GM, Mark Adams, Ed Woban, and the whole part of the GM design organisation. So it's a little bit full circle actually, because today, we're now moving into a more independent situation again, both for Saab design and of course for the Saab organisation and brand as a whole. So it's been a very interesting journey. I've also spent a year working in Detroit for the Cadillac studio during the GM time. We have an exchange program on there, so I got to experience a completely different world, from the small Saab studio to basically what was then the biggest in the world. It was also good because that made me see Saab from an outside perspective again. I've always felt that's been a strength in many respects, because I'm not Swedish, but having lived in Sweden, living the Swedish lifestyle, Swedish family and so forth, it means I can see both from an inside, but also a little bit from how the outside world sees Saab. So the time in Detroit kind of refreshed the outside perspective, which I think is healthy. It sort of, helps me to sort of lift forward the elements that make Saab unique, really.
What were some of the interesting high points, if you will, during that time for the past 20 years that you can?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I think there's been several. I mentioned the concept cars earlier, for example. The concept cars always do that, but for Saab, there was definitely a feeling of, now we're sort of moving into a new era again. We're sort of taking Saab design to the next level, and that they were very, whether it was the 9X, the very first one, of course, the series we had under Michael Mauer, 93X, the sport hatch concept. And then, of course, the Aero X and all of the later ones that have followed right up to the 9X Air. So they're always a sort of real energy injection. It gives a whole boost to the design organisation. So that's felt great. And of course, today, here launching the all-new 95, of course, we shouldn't forget the significance of that. Again, very exciting. First all-new production product we've seen on the road for quite some time, if we're honest. So that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to both the response here, but also to very shortly be able to see the car on the road, driving around. And I think that's for a designer is when you really get it's like the test, if you like,
Besides the previous 9.5, this new 9.5 that is being debuting today, what will be the difference in terms of design in terms of practicality and applicability to a consumer? How will they really benefit from the new design, whether that's exterior, body design, interior, besides the technological improvements that have taken place?
Sure, yeah. I mean, obviously, firstly, the new 9.5 is kind of the first step, if you like, to a more focused Saab design and a Saab as a product as a whole. The all-new 9.5, that picks up on a lot of the design cues that we've had with the concept cars. Certainly a lot of the thinking as well in terms of practicality. That is all baked in there, and I think anyone used to the current products, they'll notice that this marks a substantial difference, both visually. It's a much more assertive design. It's got a much stronger presence, certainly, than the old 9.5. And still maintains a lot of the practical features. I mean, one nice little element in the rear trunk, for example, we've got a very unique cargo divider, which we call the U-rail. And this is something which you can actually not just slide backwards and forwards, but you can actually turn sort of almost 90 degrees to sort of compartmentalize the rear area there for small items. So there's a lot of nice little touches that are built into the car. As we move forward, I think what we're going to see is, again, a much more focused product coming out of Saab. We're really looking, both in design terms and in terms of functionality, to sort of lift the elements that make Saab such a unique brand. The things that really set us apart. I think if you look back and think of the original 900, the time where, love it or hate it, and let's face it, a lot of people hated that car, but love it or hate it, it was a car which really stood out. You looked at it, you sat in it, you drove it, and you thought, yeah, this is Saab. There was no chance you could miss it. It was a genuine, true Saab. And I think, to be fair, we've kind of maybe lost a little bit of the character and the sort of the purity of the product compared to that time. What we're doing now is really trying to sort of re-inject that and lift and build and get that level of distinction that we've had before.
There's one design element that everybody talks about, which is the hatchback.
Right.
A lot of people wondered, will that be seen in future products? Even the 9.5. Can you tell us why or why not that hasn't been included with the 9.5?
I think, I mean, the 9.5, it's what you say, it's a large premium sedan. Sure, there's room for different body styles. We can see it's opening up a lot now. There is another body style coming on the 9.5 model, which everyone's probably aware there's a wagon version coming there. For that segment, it was felt that a sedan is more appropriate. As we move forward now, of course, I think we're in a position where things are opening up a lot more. And I won't give anything away specifically, but put it this way, there's a bigger chance for the thing that everybody's hoping for now than during the last sort of 5 or 10 years. So I think people will be quite happy with the future products when they see them.
Wonderful. With this car setting the new tone, will this be the vehicle that indicates the new design direction for the new independent Saab, or was that the 9.3X being that?
The 9.3X, of course, is it's a variant. It's based on the standard car. So it's maybe difficult to look at that in terms of showing a completely new direction for the Saab. Certainly the all-new 9.5, in many respects, is that. It's the first step towards a new sort of design language, I think. It's the first time we've got a lot of the design cues that we've had in our concept cars in production. Whether it's the wraparound screen, which gives a nice cockpit feel. We showed that sort of on the concept cars. This is the first car in production that's got that. Whether it's the rear end graphic, the strong horizontal that we have, which I think is very important because that's the first time really we've had a strong identity at the rear of our cars. I think if you ask most people, what's the rear end of a Saab look like? You'd probably get 20 different answers, So we've now established a visual identity through the concept cars, which we've now applied into a production car. So there's a lot of these cues and pointers. There's one very nice one, which you'll see one of my little favourites on the interior, the speedometer. In the centre of the speedometer we have, it's a multifunctional display, but the default setting is this secondary speedometer altimeter style that we showed on the AeroX concept car. So it's like a rolling speedometer. Nice little touch, nice little nod to our aircraft heritage.
And that functions.
And it's very, very functional. And it's great, by the way, if, for example, you're, say you're in the North of America and you want to go into Canada, it means you can set it so that can show kilometres while your main one's still on miles, for example. England, the same. If you've got a miles speedometer, you're going into France or Europe, again, you can do that. So there's function there. You know, it's what we call it's emotional functionality. You can see, yep, that's a really good function. There's reason for it being, and it makes me smile, you know? So there'll be a lot more of those things in the future. And as I said, we've kind of established a direction with the concept cars. The new 95 is really sort of putting that into practice, getting it on the road. So all of these little things will be amplifying in the future.
One last design element question I'll have for you. The Saab word mark that we've been saying. How did that really become more prominent now? Was it something that was just in feasibility studies more recognizable than the Griffin emblem? And will that Griffin emblem eventually be fully phased out, or how does that go? What are we going to see with that in the future?
There is a conscious shift in emphasis between the two. Absolutely, you're quite right. The Griffin emblem is still on the new car. You notice we've still got it in the hood, we've got it on the wheels, so it's still very much part of the graphic badging of the car, so to speak. We feel, however, that the word mark, it's a much stronger, cleaner, in many ways more Scandinavian element. You know, it is in many respects more recognizable. It's easy to read, you see it straight away. The Griffin is a little bit of it's evolved over time, but it's got connections to other brands, other companies. It's even got connection to the south of Sweden. So you can't really find the story there, you know, plus the fact that, okay, it's a round emblem, yes, there's colour there. You kind of guess there's an element of heritage there, but there's not really the story, you know. So the word mark is something which it's evolved again. We've had it for a long time, and it looks modern. It looks clean. It looks fresh. It looks modern, and we feel it's more appropriate in that respect.
Is there anything else you want to touch base about today in terms of design? We've covered pretty much all of the history and how you've come through the whole system for the past 20 years. We've covered the new 95 launch. Is there anything else that we might see that we can give us a taste of the future?
I suppose one thing which I hope everyone can pick up from the stand here, and I'm sure you'll see when we do the reveal at 1:30, the amount of energy, you know, in the shall we say the new Saab, you know. Sure, we've got a way to go before things still settle down, and you know we've got the future sorted, but there's an incredible energy and optimism just now, and I think this whole stand, and certainly the show that you'll see at 1:30, really exemplifies that. And you know, everyone here is very enthusiastic, very optimistic, and energized. You know, it's sort of a feeling of, okay, independence, freedom. Now we can really sort of focus on getting the Saab products right.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.